Acorns, nature's abundant food source. People lived off of these for millennia before the advent of agriculture. Let's see if my grain mill nutcracker can handle them.
greensandmachines.com.
For those of you who haven't watched the first 5 or 7 videos in this series, here's this grain mill that I built for grinding rye meal. But I also made a secondary wheel for it for using it as a nutcracker, so we're going to pop that in and crack some acorns. So I've got the nut cracking wheel in there, whether or not you can actually see it. I've put an acorn to test the spacing, which I've adjusted with these dial right here. That wheel moves back and forth. And let's give it a crack. That was pathetic. Let's adjust the spacing more. And then I'll put them all in and then let's have some first person footage. So I'll move the spacing in a little more. And let's pop another one in there. Can totally see that. Let's crack some nuts. Let's put one in. Too easy. Oh, we'll separate them out later. Let's put a bunch in. So I'm having the exact same problems that I've been having with all the other nuts, is that they're different sizes and different shapes and they only fit through a certain way. You open it too small, they don't go in. You open it too big, they just slide right in. I'll admit this design was kind of just thrown together at the last minute in an attempt to justify building a grain mill. So I wanted to also crack nuts with it. So what I originally thought was, since the roller has those round cutouts on it, I thought, oh, that's going to fit perfectly in there. But the downside of having that is they just all fit in vertically due to gravity or whatever that bullshit is holding everything down to the earth. So they're not even moving. Grain mill versus acorns. The acorns are winning right now. I'll just fast forward to the end where I get all the nut meats out and say, hey, I won. So I found a method that actually works. It's just kind of very similar to when I had the English walnuts. I just put them in one at a time and feed them through by hand. That's the best I can do at this point. And of course, any of the smaller ones, I'll just have to adjust the spacing and throw them back in there. Alright, y'all. You see that? Oh, that's right. Diecaster D always wins, baby. Even if it takes 2.5 hours longer than I wanted it to, I did get my acorn. Oh my gosh, poor lighting. There we go. I like how golden they look. They look a lot fresher and nicer than the last round I did, which took a bit even more longer, because I just use a hammer. So I wanted to make this like the informal conclusion to the grain mill series. Now I say informal because, knowing me, I'll probably find something else I want to try with this. But what I'm realizing that, at least with the nutcracker part of it, this isn't the best design. Having the second roller just sitting there causes the nuts just to slip instead of cracking. The only real success, in my opinion, was with the hazelnuts. They were just the perfect size and shape. and it just annihilated them. I'm pretty sure that in industrial shelling operations, they don't just use the same tooling for cracking sunflower seeds, Brazil nuts, peanuts, almonds, etc. So the one-size-fits-all approach kind of makes sense why it isn't working. Now the grain milling, however, has been pretty satisfactory. The only improvements I would think of would be to make the rollers smaller, because that way you get more torque. There's really no reason to have them this big other than I thought because I had the piece of material it would make sense. Secondly, I would improve this bearing slide mechanism because it's a bit cumbersome. It's not as smooth as I want it to be. And these aren't even real ball bearings, which is my fault for just using whatever bearings I found on the side of the street, actually. And thirdly, I'd get rid of that flat part at the bottom of the hopper where the grain just sits on, which is kind of an obvious sheet metal design flaw. As to that, if this has been an inspiration for you, it's great. Just, if you want to copy this design, don't do it. Make it better. Alright? Stay tuned for a future video where I make those acorn waffles. Those would be delicious.